जय जय राम ओम।
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम। श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम।
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम।
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम।
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम।
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम।
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम।
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम।
श्री राम जय राम जय जय राम ओम। Again, we would like to ponder deeply on the Kali Swarup which Mataji elaborately explained. Still, most of us would not have had a glimpse of it. Because that is the base. A base which cannot be brought within the ambit of knowables. So very difficult to understand. We are trying to understand through the intellect, it will fail. So we will just hear now, some of the revelations and see what is happening in us. Two thoughts never collide. Between them is a silent interval. Most people miss it because the mind is noisy, like hearing only the notes of a music, but never the silence that makes music possible. Yet, without silence, no thought can be known. Without stillness, no perception can occur. The gap is not empty. It is alive, aware, peaceful. Great meditators do not destroy thoughts. They discover the background silence in which thoughts arise and subside. Just as clouds cannot stain the sky, thoughts cannot disturb the inner space. Each time the mind pauses, even for a second, you are close to your natural state than when the mind is crowded. Conversation flows because of pauses. If words were continuous without gaps, language would become noise. Silence gives meaning to sound. That is why the deepest communication often happens without speech, through presence. Spiritually speaking, sit down.
Sorry.
Spiritually speaking, words belong to the surface. Silence belongs to the source. Our tradition in ashram beautifully emphasizes chanting not merely as repetition but as remembrance. When chanting matures, the mantra itself gently leads the mind into the silent awareness from which the name arises. Nama ultimately flowers into Mauna. Nama ultimately flowers into Mauna. Do not fear pauses. They are not absence, they are entrances. When you look at the sky, what do you really see? Not objects, but space holding the objects. Similarly, hearing depends on the silence that carries sound. Hearing depends on the silence that carries the sound. Seeing depends upon the space that allows forms to appear. Experience depends on awareness that is never disturbed. The mistake we usually make is this: attention goes to the object. Wisdom turns toward the field in which the object appears. Shift attention from the movie to the screen. The screen is never burnt by the fire scene or drowned by the ocean scene. So too your original nature remains untouched by life's movements. Instead of asking what is happening, gently ask, in what is this happening? The mind will begin returning home. Why does recognizing space matter? Because your essential nature is not the passing content, but the boundless context. Not the thought, but the awareness. Not the noise, but the silence. Not the movement, but the stillness supporting all movements. When we walk, the earth is non-moving, That is why this is possible. Movement is possible only on a momentless substratum. Changes can occur only on a changeless substratum. So too thoughts can exist only on a thoughtless substratum. What are the signs when one touches the inner space? Reactivity reduces, acceptance deepens, creativity becomes natural, Compassion flows effortlessly, fear weakens, presence strengthens. You do not become this, you stop overlooking what you already are. You stop overlooking what you already are. Pause for 10 seconds, do nothing. You will notice sound arises in silence, breath moves in stillness, thoughts float in awareness. Ask quietly, is the silence disturbed by what appears in it? You may glimpse something timeless, not created, not achieved, only recognized. Space accommodates everything, but clings to nothing. Space accommodates everything, but clings to nothing. When the mind becomes space-like, thoughts come aloud, emotions come aloud, situations come aloud, resistance dissolves. This is very close to what the Gita says of Sthita Prajna. True refinement is therefore not tightening the personality. It is expanding into inner vastness until the sense of me and mine naturally relaxes. Between two thoughts shines the same infinite space from which the universe was born. To notice it is to begin returning home. Please ponder. Between the two thoughts shines the same infinite space from which the universe was born. To notice it is to begin returning home. Do not strain to experience this space. Instead, notice, allow, relax into awareness. The original state is not far away. It is simply overlooked because the mind is fascinated by movement. Silence is not the absence of life. It is the womb of all creativity, love, wisdom, and joy. Several times a day, simply pause for a few seconds and notice the background of silence behind whatever is happening. A practical clue to all of us. Tomorrow is the Shivaratri day. All of us can try in their own way, not sitting like this, conditioning our mind to a session. No. Several times a day, simply pause for a few seconds and notice the background of silence behind whatever is happening. Not as a practice to achieve something, but as a remembrance of what is always present. Gradually, one recognizes a beautiful truth. We do not create inner space. We stop crowding it. And from that uncrowded mind arise naturally patience instead of reaction, clarity instead of confusion, harmony instead of friction, creativity instead of strain. In fact, many sages suggest that spiritual maturity is less about accumulating insights, more about becoming spacious enough for life to flow it without inner resistance. Silence is not something we enter. It is what remains when we stop leaving ourselves. Me and mind goes. The space we seek is not somewhere far away. It is the gentle background of our very being. When the mind softens, it is already there, silent, vast, welcoming. Nothing new has to be brought in. Nothing real has to be created. Very often the journey is simply from crowdedness to clarity, from movement to stillness, from me to the boundless presence. The moment a person becomes interested in silence, vastness, and the space behind experience, the inward journey has already begun. One need not announce it. One need not even measure progress. Just as dawn arrives without noise, inner clarity often unfolds quietly. Also remember something very reassuring. Stillness is not opposed to activity. A person may speak, serve, guide, organize, yet inwardly remain like the sky, untouched, accommodating everything. This is perhaps the secret behind great souls, movement outside. Movement outside, vast silence inside. And since your work refinement is not tightening the mind, but its expansion into sky-like openness. So many, but we don't want to crowd our mind with so many things. So when Papa said great void, slowly now it's becoming clear. The great void is there now. Only in the great void, everything is there. Body, mind, intellect, thoughts, emotions, and perceptions. Everything. So when Puja Mataji said Kali Swaroop, somebody sent yesterday an email. Oh, it won't come here.
No, we have somebody.
It's come.
Yeah.
1 minute.
Connected to Shraddha.
No. Sit down. You don't block them, no? The email says, When we when we say empty space, that word implies just nothing. But when we say Kali Swarup, it has got a form. It is a universal form. Maybe beyond universe also. It is inside everything. It is outside everything. It is beyond everything. Beautiful. So when we read this, we closed our eyes and inside everything. Suddenly we realize there are 200 and odd organs. There must be a space between one and two. Yeah. Otherwise, how will we recognize the individuality? It is inside everything, it's outside everything, beyond everything. It is the base, the first Bhudam that manifested from the first Tanmatra sound. So it is the base of everything that came after it. Thinking of its uniqueness, it is the only thing that can be utilized. We build a house, but we utilize only the space inside the house, not the portion constructed. We make a pot. We don't use the pot. We use the space inside to fill water. We wear a dress over the body, in the space over the body. Earth, water, fire, air, everything we can remove from a place, but not the space. Space does not need any maintenance. How should be maintained? Beautiful. Space does not need any maintenance. Pot should not be cleaned, but space does not need any maintenance. Sorry, pot should be cleaned, but space does not need any maintenance. It has no wear and tear. It is always there. Earth, water, air, even fire, light gets polluted. We get sunburns because of eco imbalance, and fire gets polluted when toxic substances are burnt, but space never gets polluted. It remained the same as it was when created. If we think of Kali Swarup as Paramatman, that is relevant. Nirakara, Adiyantamilla, Nirvigarpa, Nirahankara, Nischala. All God's qualities applies to Kali Swarup. It never reacts whatever we do. It never hurts us also. Always in Nirvikalpa Samadhi. We can say. Actually, Kali Swarup we can see as Bhagavan himself. Omnipresent, omnipotent, accommodating everything, and still can accommodate more. If we want to see God in a real form, always with us, wherever we go, whatever we do, always next to us and within us. Everything is made of atoms, and atoms do have space. So Kali Swarup is the person or thing, whatever we call it, in, out, and beyond. Today's class was very divine. So, current is there, no?
Under.
But, what to fit? Again, I will continue to read. It's all, take whatever you feel like. Because no lecture. Some points are touched and kindled. Because the space does not need any lecture. Because the space exists in the lecture. So spaces between atoms, thoughts, words, and sensory perceptions represent fundamental gaps that reveal our underlying pure consciousness, akin to Akasha in Indian philosophy that pervades all matter. You.
After.
Atoms in the body consist mostly of empty space filled with etherical potential rather than solid matter, symbolizing the omnipresent consciousness that understands the physical form. This vast emptiness mirrors the infinite self, unchanging amidst transient particles. Between thoughts lies a natural silence, expanded through meditation, where past and future cease, revealing pure presence without judgment or narrative. Similarly, pauses between words create room for true listening and insight. Pure seeing is the undivided field of vision without labels. Hearing is sound emerging from silence, pointing to the awareness as the constant witness beyond senses. The space within matter. Modern science tells us something astonishing. What appears solid is mostly space. If an atom were enlarged to the size of a cathedral, the nucleus would be like a tiny grain at the center. Everything else is vast openness. Your body, which feels dense and defined, is in truth a beautifully organized field of space. Form is only a temporary arrangement within the space, not the ultimate reality. From space, all beings arise. In space, they exist. Into space, they return, the sages declared. When we loosen our rigidity, psychological rigidity, I am this body alone, the mind begins expanding toward the inner vastness. When we loosen, I am this body alone. Observe carefully, two thoughts never collide. Between them is silent interval. We have read it, but again we have read it. Most people miss it because the mind is noisy, like hearing only the notes of music, but never the silence that makes music possible. Without silence, no thought can be known. Without stillness, no perception can occur. The gap is not empty, it is alive, aware, peaceful. Just as clouds cannot stain the sky, thoughts cannot disturb the inner silence, inner space. That is why Mataji, how many times she explained between the earth and the sky, you know. We are only limiting it to the earth and sky. But between thoughts, between words, between actions, hearing depends on the silence that carries sound. Seeing depends on the space that allows forms to appear. Experience depends on awareness that is never disturbed. Why does recognizing space matter? Because our essential nature is not the passing content, but the boundless context. Not the thought, but the awareness. Not the noise, but the silence. Not the movement, but the stillness supporting all movement. And now, we were yesterday making a mention about the last article of this book, Great Void, where Mataji talks about, we will read out the preface. Puja Mataji, in her talks with devotees, was often comparing the great void for God. This booklet contains Puja Mataji's words on the above theme, culled out from the books with the Divine Mother and Vishwamata Krishnabai. Readers would find repetitions, but it would help to absorb the theme thoroughly. Words of beloved Papa Swami Ramdas on emptiness, an article of Ken Wilber, and words of some masters are also included. Spiritual aspirants may pause after reading each page, reflect on the theme, thus paving the way for welling up the void within. This might be more useful than reading in one go. So Mataji's we read, but we will again read. Papa wanted me to look upon the Guru as the omnipresent, omniscient, nirguna, nirvikar being. Papa taught me that Guru was as vast, limitless and formless as the emptiness all around me. You pour water into the emptiness, it will not get wet. You set fire to it, it will not burn. Such a universal one is Guru. Whole concept changes, from the personal to the impersonal. While surrendering himself completely to the Guru, the disciple does so looking upon the Guru as the all-pervading, nameless, formless reality who is the great void existing all around. By so doing, the devotee reduces himself to nothingness as well as gives himself up to his master who is already the all-pervading void. You must know who God is. God is Nirguna, Nirakara, Shashvata, all-pervading existence. You can get some idea of God's Swarup if you stand on an open ground and look at the sky. The space where there is nothing between the earth and the sky can give you an insight into God's all-pervading existence beyond all names and forms. Though his Nirguna Swarup cannot be compared to anything, to give you some idea, I would say that it is like the vacant space between us, which is all-pervading. He cannot enjoy his bliss as Nirguna, but he willed he should enjoy it. In order to do so, God projected himself as the entire universe and the multitudinous beings and creatures in it. As the indwelling reality, God hides himself and therefore all are not aware of his existence in them. In order to make them aware of it and to reveal himself in their hearts, our beloved Sadguru Papa came in human form to guide them. It is possible to guide human beings only through a human form. Therefore, the Guru, the Supreme Lord, comes in a human form to teach and guide humanity. In the beginning, there was only a vast, limitless, empty space. Great void. Such a being we have to realize within ourselves. Just as we could have an idea of what a man or an object was, like by the shadow it cast on earth, likewise she was mentioning the void as representing him. That he was like the infinite space we could see all around us when we were flying in a plane. Actually, Mataji said he was all this and far, far, far beyond. So what she was telling us was merely an approximity to reality, like the shadow was to man. God's eternal being that we have to attain, is one of utter emptiness. Total void, like the vacant space around us. If we are to attain such a void, we should also become thoroughly empty within. That is to say, there should not be the least vestige of Dehabhiman, body consciousness in us. Only then we can attain God's Shashwata Swarup. Until and unless our Dehabhiman goes completely, until the least trace of it disappears altogether, God cannot reveal Himself in us. God's real nature, real Sabhava is Nirguna Nirvikara Swarup, nameless, formless, static, void aspect. Such a supreme being who fills all space came in a human form in order to enjoy his own bliss. It is like enclosing the emptiness that is all around you within the confines of a small container. Take away the enclosure. What is left? Only the emptiness again. God's eternal being is all void, and we can become one with such a Swarup of God only if we ourselves become thoroughly empty within and without. As I went on doing what Papa had asked me to, I began to identify every article I saw, be it a flower, a piece of cloth, or any other article, with its source, namely God, and tell myself, what a beautiful thing God has wrought. Gradually, as God's thought filled me through and through, the void that pervaded all around me permeated my mind also. There would then ensue long spells of void or utter blankness of mind between the two thoughts. That Nirguna Nirakara God has manifested as the entire universe with innumerable names and forms. He is seated in your heart and in everybody's heart. The mind reaches a state of stillness or void, like the space between you and me, or between the road and the sky above. That emptiness pervades you, within and without. Then you get sakshatkar in no time. The devotee even gets to know what that ultimate state of realization would be, like the vast space around us and between us, and so on. Just to bring some thought into your mind, and as soon as that thought ends, there is a pause before you think of another thought. And the mind is blank in this period. That blankness is God. The vacant space between you and me is God. So much is He all-pervading, and such an all-pervading God is seated in your heart. In the final stage of God realization, when you become one with reality, you shed the last vestige of Dehabhiman and the sense of duality and become one with Him. Papa says, for nearly a year, Ramdas struggled on in a world full of chaos, anxieties, and pains. It was a period of terrible stress and restlessness, all of his own making. In this utterly helpless condition, full of misery, where is relief, where is rest? That was the heart's cry of Ramdas. The cry was heard, and from the great void came the voice. Despair not, trust me, thou shalt be free. This was the voice of Ram. Great void. Again, Papa. God is infinite, God is eternal. Therefore, God alone is real. Anything that has a beginning and end is unreal. It is only a mental projection. God cannot be divided into parts. Every part of Him is full. You say 24 hours make a day, calculated on the basis of the movement of the sun. In fact, the sun never moves. The sun never rises, never sets. Still, we base all our calculations on the sun's movements. It is all mind-made. When you go to the sun, is there any day or night? The calculation of 24 hours a day has no meaning there. So also about all measurement of space, which is infinite. They are only illusory. Therefore, the beginning and the end are the same. It is very difficult to understand infinity and eternity, in which all opposites meet, lose distinction, cannot be divided into parts. When we enjoy intense happiness, we do not know how time passes. When we talk about God and merge in God, we transcend time and space. Therefore, it is said, infinity and eternity is Amrita, the sweetest thing. Bliss is Amrita. Eternal joy is Amrita. Eternal joy is God. In this hall, there are 4 walls. It is not the walls we are making use of, but the empty space within them. In a vessel, which is the most useful portion? The empty space in it. So if you empty yourself completely, you create something like a vacuum within yourself, then you are really full. You are most useful. A flute, unless it is empty, is of no use. It must be hollow, otherwise it will not produce any music. You must empty yourself of the ego, and then the flute player will take you up. I am nothing, you are everything. That is the way to empty yourself. Acharya Vinoba Bhave. When we look at creation, we find a vast expanse of space on one hand, and on the other there is flow of time that has neither beginning nor end. It then becomes clear that howsoever much we stretch our imagination, we can never see the limits of it. A.H. Almas. The experience of the void is an important juncture. It is necessary for the transition from the realm of personality to the realm of essence or being. But by no means it is the final end of personality, and the void itself is not essence yet. We see that the void is the emptiness resulting from the dissolution of personality needed for the emergence of the essence, E capital, the spirit. In other words, the basic ground of our experience is empty space, the void. The void is the experience of oneself, one's essence, as empty space. It is an experience of expansion, spaciousness, openness, boundlessness. The mind is not bound by the rigid boundaries of the personality's self-image. Its effect on perception is to see things as they are, without distortion. The void is really nothing but the absence of the personality and its various distortions. The mind is empty, then completely empty of the personality. It is as if the inner space is cleaned out, emptied of the personality and its pattern, mental or physical. The person feels free, fresh, light, unhampered. The mind is seen as it is, an immaculate emptiness. The mind is seen as it is, immaculate emptiness. Stanislav Grof, another great philosopher. When we encounter the void, we feel that it is primordial emptiness of cosmic proportions and relevance. Primordial emptiness. We become pure consciousness, aware of this absolute nothingness. However, at the same time, we have a paradoxical sense of its essential fullness. This cosmic vacuum is also the plenum, assembly, since nothing seems to be missing in it. While it does not contain anything in a concrete manifest form, it seems to comprise all of existence in a potential form. In this paradoxical way, we can transcend the usual dichotomy, division into two, between emptiness and form, or existence and non-existence. However, the possibility of such a resolution cannot be adequately conveyed by words. It has to be experienced to be understood. Aldous Huxley. We do our best to disprove the fact, but the fact remains. Man is as divine as nature, as infinite as the void. David Hawkins. The term void has created much confusion and has misled people throughout the centuries. It implies nothingness or non-existence, which is not a possibility in the real. There is no opposite to God. Only truth has actual existence. What is more commonly meant by the term is absence of form, absence of substance, or non-duality. It is often confused with non-existence. To confuse the ultimate allness and with nothingness, void is to fall victim to the falsity of trying to prove that non-existence actually exists. Eckhart Tolle. Pay attention to the gap between two thoughts, the brief silent space between words in a conversation, between the notes of a piano or flute, or the gap between the in-breath and the out-breath. Stillness is your essential nature. What is stillness? The inner space or awareness in which the words on these pages are being perceived and become thoughts. Without that awareness, there will be no perception, no thoughts, no world. You are that awareness disguised as a person. Suzuki. Emptiness, which is conceptually liable to be mistaken for sheer nothingness, is in fact the reservoir of infinite possibilities. Laos. Become totally empty. Quiet the restlessness of the mind. Only then will you witness everything unfolding from emptiness. Everything unfolding from emptiness. Now we come to the last. The Simple Feeling of Being by Ken Wilber. This is the article which I told you. In the Brown University, at the time of convocation, a pamphlet was given in which this appeared. We begin with the realization that the witness is an ever-present consciousness, even when we doubt its existence. The doubt is also witnessed, you know. You are right now aware of these words. The room, a window, here openness, people around you, your chair. You can sit back and simply notice that you are aware of all those objects floating by. Sounds float through the air, thoughts float through the mind, and when you notice them, you are effortlessly aware of them. That word, you know, effortlessly aware of them. There is a simple, effortless, spontaneous witnessing of whatever happens to be present. When you rest, when you shift in the simple, clear, ever-present witness, you are resting in the great unborn. You are resting in intrinsic spirit, Atma. You are resting in infinite freedom. That effortless witness, you know. You cannot be seen. You have no qualities at all. You are not this, you are not that. You are not an object. You are the opening or clearing in which the entire manifest world arises right now, but you do not arise in it. The witness does not arise. It arises in you, in the vast emptiness and freedom that you are. Spirit cannot be grasped or reached or sought or seen. It is the ever-present seer. To search for the seer is to miss the point. To search forever is to miss the point forever. How could you possibly search for that which is right now aware of these words? How could you possibly search for that which is right now aware of these words? You are that. You cannot go out looking for that which is the looker. You cannot go out looking for that which is the looker. When you are not an object, you are God. That last word itself is sufficient for our tomorrow's pondering. When you are not an object, you are God. Everything is getting objectified. All our senses help us to get it objectified. But the power behind it, the subject. So when Mataji said about Kari Swarup, Kari Swarup, Kari Swarup, today she wanted us to go deeper into it so that tomorrow, being the Shivaratri day, as many times as possible, we will try to make a peep into this through the pause moments. In between, individually. Pause between the thoughts, pause between the words, pause between the actions. When we open, we see the objects, the space between the objects, between the trees, the sky, the earth, as Mataji said, the space between. Like that, tomorrow we will try. Consciously we will try. Silently we will try. Individually we will try. And suppose we take a book, we find now the space. Previously we were just reading Great Wall Bus. Now everyone will know there is space, space, space. And in your body, so many things are there. How do we distinguish between them? Scientists or biologists or doctors keep on telling, scientists I think, atoms, trillions of, what is it called?
White blood cells.
Huh?
Cells in the body.
Cells. Well, how can we say trillions? There should be space, you know. So this is full of space. So tomorrow we will try to see that. In the space we exist. We are trying to understand the space while in the space. And that space is Bhagavan. Space is consciousness. Space is the subtle and mysterious power, Ram. So now we pray to the same power. You have motivated us, prompted us to dwell upon this on an exhaustive way. Right from this moment, help us to identify the space, identify you as a space, so that ultimately we weave it through Mataji's words, Papa's words, Mahatma's words. So that's why we said tomorrow during the waking time, as much time as possible, we try to peep into. If we are fortunate enough to stay for some time, well and good. At least we are praying now. Make me to get a peep into it. Then, tomorrow if we try that, it will slowly stay with us, that habit, which will help us in our inward journey. And when we chant Ram Nam, we know that the chanting is being known, chanting is being realized, chanting is being experienced, and the sound is being heard, the sound is being realized because there is space. So he is there in this form of space. He is indwelling, all-pervading. He is omnipotent, omnipresent, omniscient. He is the creator, sustainer, destroyer. May we be blessed to have some entry into it from now onwards, and so that it slowly gets stabilized in it. Hari Om. Om Shri